Right, YouTubes, how you all doing? I hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is just going to be a little painting video. So I'll show you what the job is. It's a 1 series front bumper. Wasn't a massive amount of damage. It was all sort of scuffed through here and scratched around here, and then your usual stone chips and stuff, and a couple of little marks here and there. So the colour on this job is it's mineral white, so it's a 3-stage pearl. It's a really nice colour. I do like mineral white. Obviously there can be issues with colour matching and stuff. But yeah, I've checked the colour out. I've got 1 colour chip for it, which is standard shade. There's a handful of other shades on the system. Colour chip looked really good in the sun and under the light in the shade as well. It looked good. But I did spectro it, but the spectros do struggle with the 3-stage pearls and can throw it out. But I just spectroed it just to see what it picked out, and it picked out standard shade as the best match, and it was pretty close percentage wise. I probably wouldn't recommend recalculating it, because it could change it. It does struggle with, obviously with the 2 different layers, it can struggle to get the colour right, but I think it's okay. It looks alright. Obviously application wise can change the colour on this. So I do what I normally do. So this is going to get a coat of wet on wet, white wet on wet, to give me a good ground coat. That'd be Mipa 4+1, the wet and wet mixing ratio. And then I'll put the ground coat on, which is just straight white base coat. I'll put the usual half a coat and a double coat on of that. And once it's all white, what I do then is I'll just do two coats of the pearl and just a little effect coat on top, a little drop coat. And that should be enough, I think. But I will spray it out as I go, and I will check it against the car. But just 2 individual coats of pearl normally on most of the pearls that I have done is the right amount, I find. So yeah, that'll be it. So yeah, spray guns I'll be using on this job will be the usual spray guns. I'm sorry, but if you're new to the channel, I will tell you what guns I'll be using. So the wet on wet, I go on with my Satajet 1500B RP, and that's got a 1.4 setup on that. I just put one wet coat of wet on wet on, and I normally put the pressure up on that, so about 2.1 bar for that. And then the base coat's going to go on with Satajet X5500, and that's got a 1.2i setup on that, and that'll be both colours will go on with that gun. And then the clear coat is going to go on with my I'm going to use my X5500 with a 1.20 setup on that. And yeah, clear coat I use on this is Mipa CX2. So yeah, that's it. I'll get the wet on there first, and then while that's drying, I'll mix up the 2 colours, and obviously get the ground coat on there first, dry that out, and then I'll do the pearl coat on top of that, and I'll dry them 2 coats out individually, so they're sort of single coats, and then the effect coat, and then 2 coats of clear coat. So yeah, that being said, I'll get it all degreased, water degreaser, solvent degreaser, get it blown off and tacked off, and we'll get some paint on it. Right then, YouTubes, here we go again. Same old crap. No, I'm only joking, but it is the same old stuff. Well, this job's a little bit different, being a 3-stage pearl, so yeah, don't do them that often. So yeah, just getting it all cleaned up now for the wet on wet. Want to wet on wet it because obviously the breakthrough's showing through, and you've got the undercoat and then the pearl coat. I want a good white base on there before I start putting the undercoat on. And yeah, the usual procedure. Water degreaser, then solvent degreaser. That's the way I do it now. Ideally, bumpers, I'd like to, you know, pressure wash all the insides, because there's a lot of crap on the insides of them. and dirt, and it's always a risk. But it's just time. I do as many processes as I can, but yeah, I'd have to settle my jet wash up every time. It's not to hand, but yeah, ideally I'd love to clean all the inside out. But I do give it a good blow and a good wipe out beforehand, before it goes in the booth and when it's in the booth. You know, there is some dirt in there, but none of it's unstable most of the time. But yeah, ideally it'd be great just to pressure wash all the insides of bumpers before you take them in the booth after they're prepped. So yeah, just mixing the wet and wet, which is Mipa 4+1, the wet and wet mixing ratio. Just be one coat of that. Give it one wet coat all over. Yeah, I use the 4+1 when I need white, because the designated wet and wet F37 is only available in dark grey and light grey, and light grey would be okay, but it's better to have white on there. And yeah, quite often our wet and wet bumpers, it just seals everything in and gives it a uniform finish all over, especially if you're doing some chips and stuff that you may not have primed the whole bumper. But yeah, I do like to wet and wet bumpers most of the time. Times that I don't do it, I wish that I had done it. So yeah, so that's the wet and wet mixed up, and that's my wet and wet gun, which is a Satajet 1500B with a 1.4 RP setup on that, and they're great little guns in 1500B. So yeah, they're like the older traditional Satas, like the 100B. They're the same sort of body, but they've got a few variations in setups, and that is sort of, they've bought it back out, that gun. It's a budget gun really. It's not too expensive for a Sata, and yeah, it's really versatile. They've got different setups, so you can use it for solver, Basecoat, primer, Waterbase, all sorts. Yeah, great little gun, and really reasonable price wise. If you wanted to buy Satajet guns on a budget and you wanted a base gun and a clear gun, they'd be an ideal choice, they would, the 1500Bs. Yeah, I just bought it for wet and wet. I use it for wet and wet, and when I want to do a thinner primer, high build primer, but a thinner one, I use it for that. I won't use my 100B with a 1.8. I use that 1.4 setup for 2-pack primer as well, for like your compact primer, not your full-blown high build. So yes, it's a great gun, and works really well with a wet and wet with that setup. So yeah, we just put a wet coat down all over it, and while that's drying, then I'll go and mix up the ground coat first, the white ground coat to go on there, and then again while that's drying, I'll go and mix up the pearl coat that goes on top. Yeah, it's great when you get good results. Satisfying the pearl colours are when you get good results with it. But yeah, they're quite risky to do sometimes. You get one bit of blemish in that top pearl coat, and there's nothing you can do with it. If you can't cover anything with it because it's a transparent coat. So yeah, you do have to sort of take your time with them, and yeah, cleanliness is the key really. You just don't want any coloured bits getting in that final pearl coat. Spent quite a long time in the booth doing these 3-stage pearls. But yeah, this is mineral white, this colour, BMW mineral white. I can't remember the code now. It's a lovely colour. It looks fantastic in the sun, and yeah, the handful of times that I have done it, I've had quite good colour match results with it as well, which is good. So now we're ready for the ground coat. Checked it all over, didn't find any nibs in the wet on wet. Another good advantage of having white on wet is if you did miss any nibs, and you did have to flatten, you know, in the clear coat, they won't poke through as a different colour, which that's one advantage of getting the right colour primers on and wet and wets before you start basing. So yeah, it's a normal 2.5 coats of the straight white ground coat. So it'd be a half coat and dry that out, and then a double coat, and that'll give me, that's plenty of coverage for that. The Mipa whites, they cover quite well really. Some whites can be transparent, but yeah, it covers quite well. And what Mipa do recommend with any of the 3-stage colours, you know, with the candy colours or anything that's got a mid coat or, you know, a pearl coat on top, they recommend to put a hardener in the base coat. I didn't do it on this one. I forgot actually, but I've done it a few times without it, and it's okay. All that hardener does is, it doesn't speed up the drying. All it does is it guarantees that, you know, if it wasn't 100% fully cured with all the layers of base coat that are going to be on there, it guarantees that it will cure it off, and it won't cause any issues later on. It just gives you that guarantee. But yeah, it was dry enough. I do find though, if you put the hardener in it, it sort of makes the base coat a little bit sort of cheesy and textured. It's yeah, it's not really that noticeable, but the hardener that goes in it, the water-based hardener, it's quite thick, so it does thicken up the base coat a little bit, and it doesn't lay down as smooth. But they only recommend to put it in the ground coat, not in the pearl coat. Like I say, it doesn't speed the drying up at the time, but it guarantees that it will activate it and cure it off if you did, you know, have any areas that you didn't fully dry it out. It just more of a precaution than anything, the hardener. But yeah, it's a good. I've never used a water base that had a hardener with it, and it's a good little auxiliary product really to add to the base coat. There's also a solvent accelerator you can put in, so where you can replace half of the water or all of the water and put a solvent thinner in there instead of a water thinner, which that will speed up the drying. Again, I don't use it that often, but it does help. It sort of, again, it changes the way the base coat goes on a little bit with if you put the accelerator thinner in there, it sort of it thins it out a bit more, I suppose. And yeah, I'm not sure how it stands, because you know, it's sort of making it a bit more solvent based then. So yeah, they recommend to put the hardener in on the first application on the ground coat, and they say that you can sort of add the solvent thinner in there as well. So this all just measures to avoid and eliminate any issues that may arise from applying a lot of coats of base coat. So it's good that they've got these products there with it as well. And they also say you can use the hardener, and you can leave the base coat exposed with the hardener in, so it won't need clear coating. So if you know wanted a matte finish on anything in the colour that you're spraying, you can just, with the hardener in the base coat, you can put it on without putting clear coat over the top of it, which is another good thing. So yeah, I've done the ground coat, and I've also done the pearl now on the spray out card. Just 2 single coats of pearl on top and a little effect coat. My camera settings aren't set up for outside in the sun, so this bit of footage is pretty useless for you guys, but yeah, just checking it. As well, with the Mipa base coat, you can just spray solvent degreaser over it. It doesn't mark or melt or affect the water base coat, and that just gives me a little bit of a sheen on there by putting solvent degreaser over the spray out card without having to clear coat it, just to check the colour. So yeah, that's another good thing, that you can solvent degrease Mipa water base coat as well, which is pretty good you was worried about any contamination for your clear coat to go on, you know you can give it a solvent degrease beforehand. So yeah, like I said, that was 2 coats of the mid coat on there, the pearl coat, and it looked good out there in the sun, and I checked it with the light on it, and different angles looked good to the bonnet. So yeah, that's what I'm going for it. I didn't need to sort of try any other shades, that's what I'm going for. So yeah, apply the mid coat, don't load it on there heavy. The pearl coat, it's a transparent coat, so you know, just put one normal coat on there. Obviously where you've got some material on that bumper now, when you start applying the base coat, it doesn't, the mid coat, it doesn't sort of wet up a lot, because the layers that you've already got on there, you're building on top of that. So yeah, but I know, you know, it doesn't look like it's like got a full coat on there, but that's how it looks, and it has got a full coat on there. You don't want to start overloading the pearl coat on top. Just wants a nice even uniform coat really. I don't double header that. I always do two coats of pearl. I don't really ever check at one. I always think it must have to have 2. But yeah, let me know what you guys think when you do pearls, whether you just start with 1 and see how that looks. But I think 2 really is what they need for the effect coat, you know, for the pearlescent coat. And yeah, make sure I dry them out individually. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether you need to put a drop coat on the pearls. I do anyway. But I don't think it would make any difference. I'm not sure, because it's a sort of transparent coat anyway. So yeah, that's 1 coat on there, dry that out, and then do the same again. 1 even coat over it again after that's dried out. So yeah, like I say, it's quite time consuming. Temperature's warm now, so my booth, I struggle to get the heat out, so I don't like to, when I'm doing the base coating on jobs, I don't like to put heat into it, because I can't get the heat out of it. So you know, I have to sort of, the temperature in the booth when I was doing this without the burner on it was about 26, maybe 27 after a little while of running. So yeah, just using the ambient air temperature that's in there with that A&I blow dryer, the self-heating one, just to increase the air temperature that coming out of that blower, just to dry it. But it does take a while. I didn't want to, you know, I don't like to put it onto a bake cycle at 40 like I normally do, because I can't get that temperature out of there. It takes forever. Where that booth's in a garage, in a confined space, the sun on the garage is warm, the booth takes the air, the air that comes into the booth is taken from inside the garage, not outside air temperature. So it gets hot and stuffy in that garage with the booth running, and it's taking that hot and stuffy air out of the garage into the booth. So yeah, I struggle to get heat out. Once I've got heat in there, I struggle to get the temperature down. It is a pain, and there's a lot of things that are not ideal about my setup, but you know, for what I've got, it does work. I've just got to work with, you know, I've got to work around it and find ways around it. But yeah, it's not ideal. So yeah, that is an issue for me in the summer, is getting heat out of the booth. So now we're ready for a clear coat. It all looked good, it all looked clean, it was all dried out. Took a long time to dry all them coats out, and give it extra time as well, because like I say, I don't want any issues with it not being fully dried out. It was clean, which I was pleased about. It's so annoying when you get to that last final pearl stage, last coat, and then you see a little black fibre or a little coloured, you know, piece of dirt in the paint, and you can't put can't nib it and put a bit of colour over it or anything like that. You have to put ground coat back on it, and it can be a pain. It really can. But no, it was all clean, which is good. So yeah, Mipa CX2, they're fast dry clear. It's fast dry clear, but you can use it in you know, in all temperatures, because it stays open and then it cures really quick. So yeah, Mipa CX2, that's got the HS25 hardener in it, and yeah, this time of year I won't use HS10 in my clear coats. It'll be HS25 and HS35, which is the slow, and it still dries, you know, it still cures really quick with a HS25 and the 35. It's just you get a bigger window of it staying open. Just stays open for a certain amount of time, and then it cures rapid, and I have no issues with it. I've never had solvent boil with it. Even when I've really loaded it on heavy on bonnets, I've never had solvent boil or any of that type of issue that you can have with maybe fast drying clears. And so yeah, really good clear. I'm really liking it, and for the price as well, it's budget friendly. It's decent quality, and it's a decent price. It really is. So yeah, that's one coat of clear on there. Just put one closed coat on there, a nice even coat on there, and then yeah, a little bit heavier on the second coat. And yes, same again. Just take the time and just make sure I get it all covered and get all the edges covered. And yeah, bumpers can be quite consuming on the paint, especially, you know, the 3-stage pearls. But yeah, sort of, yeah, just being really careful, really, just checking, make sure I've got everything as I go, and yeah, always on the lookout for bits to land in it, because it's just soul destroying when you do all them layers and then something lands in it that shows up and you can't nib it out. It can be soul destroying for you. But yeah, lucky enough that this one came out clean. I was happy. There was no issues with it, and yeah, it's satisfying, the end results with the pearl colours, the pearl white. So you know, they are a tricky paint job to do, the pearl whites. You know, the candy colours are as well. They require, you know, a lot of concentration, because you know, they can go wrong on you quite easily, and yeah, you got less options of getting yourself, you know, getting yourself out of trouble while you're painting it. Normally, if you get any issues with these 3 stages, you know, in your mid coat or in your clear coat, it's yeah, it's do it again job, really. It's yeah, they're higher risk to paint than your standard colours. But yeah, everything went okay with it. I did have some issues. I had some issues with the colour mixing and the formulations, but I explain it all in the outro. So yeah, when you see the outro, I'll let you know what the issues were with the mix, the formula that I had for this colour. But that's it anyway. That's the last coat of clear. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again. What support he is to the channel, eh? He's the least supportive out of everyone. You guys are more supportive than him.
Oh yeah, I'm here every day.
Just can't get the staff. Right then, YouTubes, that's the BMW 1 Series bumper all fitted up and finished. So I'll give you a quick look. Yeah, only had the footage on the painting. So yeah, I'll give you a quick look. And the colour, I'm quite pleased with. It's not 100%, I'd say, but for a 3-stage pearl edge to edge, it's pretty good on plastic. But yeah, it all come out all right. Fair few layers of product on that. So yeah, coat of wet on wet, probably 6 coats of base coat in total, and 2 coats of clear coat all in one go. So when you start sort of loading that sort of amount of material on, there's always a risk of you know, dying off a little bit on the clear coat, dying off and shrinking down a little bit, but it's all right. That's pretty much out the gun. We just give it a little hand polish. But yeah, I did have a little bit of an issue on the colour. So this on my system, it updates on a daily basis. Whenever you turn it on, it's connected to the internet and it updates formulas and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't really take no notice. It does flash up at you on a colour when you pick a colour. If it's the new formula, it will flash up new. And it will automatically go to the new formula. So I didn't take any notice of it flashing up new. I just went for that formula, started mixing the ground coat, the straight white undercoat that goes on there first, and it got halfway through it. So the bulk of it's white in there, obviously. Got sort of halfway through it, and there's a tinter on there that I didn't recognise. Looked all over my system. The tinter's not on my system, so it's obviously a new tinter. Spoke to my paint factor, they hadn't heard of it. Went online, barely found any information about it. All I found out was what it was called, orange. So I just assumed it's replacing a tinter that was in an old formula. So I didn't want to waste that paint. So I just put the orange in that I had on the system that was just called orange by name, and put that in. So it was a bit of a gamble, but when I checked the old formula, all the tinters were the same. There was the amounts were varying a little bit, but all the tinters were the same apart from it's called T200, which is in the old formula. The new formula had T202. So yeah, it's obviously a replacement for some reason, but I used the old tinter in the new formula, and that's what it come out like. So bit of luck really, because yeah, I couldn't even get hold of that tinter. Could have mixed the old formula, but I was already through the mix, so didn't want to waste that paint. So yeah, that's it. Bit of a waffle there, I know, but yeah, you do come across this sometimes with the system updates before you update, you know, and before the people get the paint in that's updated. So yeah, that caught me out a little bit yesterday. So I will try and make it a bit of a rule to check the formulas, make sure there aren't any new tinters on there, and if there is and I haven't got that tinter, then to use one of the older formulas. That's sort of the way around it really. So that's it. Yeah, enough waffling. It's all finished, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. A little bit different doing a 3-stage pearl. I'm in two minds whether I like doing them or not. It's quite a long time in the booth, but I do like them when they're done. They come out nice. So they look cracking. The white 3-stage pearls, I think. This mineral white's a lovely colour. I love it. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again in the next one. Look after yourselves. Cheers.